Hello. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's office hours. Apologize, my voice is a little scratchy. I'm just getting over a 2 week cold. Finally feel better for the first time in a long time, but my voice is still trying to catch up, especially after being on calls from pretty much 5 a.m. until now. Yeah, glad to be here. Want to welcome anyone who's joining. If you join, please introduce yourself, say hello in the comments if you want to. Don't have to. Always helps when I know who I'm talking to. So yeah, a couple of quick updates. Just reminders. I have signs. If you want to sign, let me know. Shoot me an email. Shoot me a message DM. Happy to bring those by. Have some shirts available. Have a fundraiser that ends today. That is linked to on my Facebook page. To purchase a shirt with proceeds going to my campaign. And also plan to do a couple of more events between now and November, just to meet people, talk with people. I'll be doing some door-to-door canvassing, but also like to host some events as well. I'm a big fan of events. And so toward the end of August, we'll likely be doing probably something, a little pop-up in Rocky Hill Park to meet people. And then September, middle to end of September, we'll try to do something again, maybe back at Trailbreaker where my kickoff event was, depending on weather and things like that. But just want an opportunity to get people together, not just for me to meet people, but I love events because it allows other people to meet other people. And so I'm sure there's people who came to my kickoff event who had never met each other before. And I like to foster that. In fact, my wife and I have been hosting what we call a cocktail party. It's a really informal way to get some people together that we know or have never met, and get some other people together who have never met. We started it last August after I read the book 2-Hour Cocktail Party by Nick Gray that laid out a template, a framework for doing it. It's a lot of fun. Had not a lot of people started small with people I knew, neighbors, friends here locally, and then also a couple people I didn't know. Invited them who I met on LinkedIn, and it was just a lot of fun. It's 2 hours max, and invite only, just so we know how many people to prepare for. Typically, it's been about 8 people. We're doing it again tomorrow and have about 25 people RSVP'd. So this could be the biggest one yet. It's our third one we've ever done. It's not a political event. It's just something we've done before I ran for city council. Just a way to meet people, connect people for 2 hours, just have some good conversations. People from all walks of life, people ranging from retired Air Force F-15 pilots to teachers to all kinds of people showing up, all walks of life. I also do a marketing meetup once a month outside of the summer. Summer's too hard to get people together, where I get local marketers together to talk about what we're doing, what we're working on, how we can help each other, how we can learn from each other. And so I'm a big believer in community. I'm a big believer in events and getting people together, because when people get together, good things happen most of the time. We're just keyboard jockeys throughout the day, and that just gets hard. So, which leads me to discuss something that several people have asked me about, and want to talk about this topic today. And I'm sure anyone who's at our event tomorrow probably have some conversations about it. But really, my thing tomorrow is not political. and it's just to get to know people, not event related. But that's why I want to talk about it now and here. And that is my endorsement from Ozzy Knizovich. And so some people were surprised, I think, to see that. Um, and I think it really, I mean, and I get some people's concern about it. I understand that. But at the end of the day, I'm here for all of the people in Liberty Lake, minus the extremes on both sides. I don't think there's any place in our society for the absolute extremes of far right wing politics or left wing socialist Marxist stuff. I think they're both equally bad, and there's no place for them. But this is a nonpartisan position. I'm a nonpartisan candidate. I mean, I have no party affiliation. People are trying to peg me as a liberal from Seattle. I'm not. And now people might try to peg me as a conservative from the Midwest, which I'm not. I'm just a citizen. I'm just someone who keeps an open mind about things, someone who wants to bring people together. That's why I started talking about my events, because that's what I enjoy about them, bringing people together, people who may not talk on a normal day-to-day basis because they don't affiliate with the same people. I think it's important to get people together and be able to talk about things in a civil way. And whether you agree with some of the things Ozzy's done or said, I think at the very least, I think he did a great job serving Spokane County as a sheriff. I think he did everything he could to keep people safe, to keep crime down. And I appreciate that, because one of the things that I will focus on with Liberty Lake is working with our police department and law enforcement and making sure we keep Liberty Lake safe, that our kids can go outside and I don't have to worry about them being safe, even though I still do. But it's just, we need trust in one another. And I think we also need to just talk to one another. So if you want to talk with me about this further, I'm happy to talk with you over the phone, grab coffee, um, a beer, whatever. Happy to talk. I think once we talk, you'll understand kind of where I'm coming from on a lot of things. And you know, I'm seeking support from people on both sides of the aisle, because we need to work together to make things happen in Liberty Lake. Um, and I think one of the things that Ozzy and I both saw eye to eye on is that we don't have a much tolerance for the extremes of either party. So, so it's kind of our common thread is that piece of it. Um, so so if you'd like to discuss it with me further, happy to do so. I'll continue to seek out endorsements from people who are considered uh, progressive and people who are considered conservative. I think we need both. We need both voices um, for a healthy democracy and to move things forward. We don't need extremes wanting to force their agendas on us, force us to read certain things or not read certain things. That to me is an extreme, egregious attack on our First and 14th Amendment rights. And I don't stand for that. And I don't stand for any infringement on any constitutional amendment or right. So let's just be clear there. Um, and why I'm running is to bring us together, to stop this political fighting, this left versus right bullshit, which is what it is. I'm sick of it. A lot of people are sick of it. It's time to work together and move on. I feel like all the two sides do is just gaslight the hell out of each other all the time. And they blame the other of doing the thing they're also doing. So it's time to stop that stuff and move forward. So Happy to talk with anyone about it anytime, anytime you want. Um, but in moving forward, I think I think it's time to just to to, to put politics aside, and I think in talking with Ozzy, I think I'm not going to speak for him, but I think he might allude to the fact that politics get in the way of a lot of things. Um, and I just want to be in city council, be open and objective, and listen to the people on all sides, have as much information as possible for me to make a decision. That's how I plan to do my job. I'm not going to go in with biases, with my heels in the ground on certain issues, other than if you try to infringe on our rights, I will dig my heels in every time. But I just want Liberty Lake to be the kind of community where we can have conversations, where we're not pointing fingers at each other and have to put people in a box. And it's interesting, when I started to run, I don't think anyone really knew what side I was on, conservative or progressive, liberal. And I think people had their own assumptions. Um, and some people would come up to me and said, I'm generally conservative, but always happy to talk, thinking I was liberal. Some people came up to me thinking I was conservative, saying that they'd never really voted for a conservative before. I'm like, well, I'm not. And so I think people, and it's a psychological thing. I've studied enough psychology as a marketer to understand how people think, because it's part of my job every day to make change happen, to understand how people think. And decisions are made through emotions. And our brains are amazing. It's amazing what we can do and how fast we can do it. And one of those things we do really fast is make snap judgments based on our past experience, not the experience of others, 'cause we haven't had that experience, but our past experience. It's all cataloged. And when we see something, we try to make sense of it as quickly as we can. And we try to basically say, what does this rhyme with that I already know about? What box does this fit into that I have available here from my own experience? And I think that that's a shortcut for us to make decisions, to keep us safe, and back in the, you know, way back in the day when we had a lot more things to worry about on a daily basis and we had to really think quickly, and life or death was more of an issue. That's still hardwired into us, but I think now we use it, we rely on it too much. Sometimes we have too closed of a mind when we go into things. We expect things to be black and white. We expect to make instant sense of things. And if we can't, now I feel like as a society, we lash out and we get fearful. And that's the emotional part of our decisions and how we act and the psychology piece of it. And there are politicians right now preying on our psychology, just like social media companies understand our psychology and they've built algorithms to take advantage of our psychology, whether we know it or not. Politicians are doing that. They understand that fear is what will get people riled up. It will drive people to do things. And they're trying to make change happen out of manipulating people's fear of the unknown and fear of things that just make them uncomfortable and misinformation. And I think we all need to slow down a little bit, stop making these snap judgments and listen, shut our mouths and listen to the other side, to what's going on, what's being said, what's being done. Got these people wanting to come into school boards because they feel like schools are indoctrinating children. Why would they want to do that? It just doesn't make any sense. But yet they're trying to use fear and misinformation. And what I'd like to know is if any of these people have ever sat through a class to understand what's being taught. Have they looked at the curriculum? Or are they just going on what a bunch of other people are telling them they should fight against? And that's what I'm against, is just this whole politicization of everything that we're doing, everything. And where I'm coming back to with this is that people want to try to fit me in a box. They expect in this day and age that you're either left or you're right, that it's got to be black and white. There's got to be a clear line. There's not, man. And I would guarantee you that probably 70% of the country cannot be put in a box, left or right. I would guarantee you, if you talk to 70% of people, there are things on both sides they agree with and things on both sides they disagree with. I happen to just say, like, I'm done with the parties. Neither one fits my value system and my beliefs, but there's good things from both sides. And I want to represent the people of Liberty Lake who feel about those good things on both sides. And so that's what I want to get away from as a community, as a society, as a country. We don't have to put people in a box. Nothing is black and white. Not a thing is black and white. Never has been, it never will be. I mean, there's a lot of issues that we could get into and dive into that are very hot topics. I'm not going to in this venue because it's not applicable to the position I'm running for or city council or what I'll have control over. But people want a black and white solution. Politicians want to present it in a black and white way so people will understand, or at least understand their point of view. But nothing's black and white. There's always more to everything. There's more layers to everything. And that's why we can't solve any problems right now, because we're not saying, like, do we have constraints that we have to work within? If we do, what can we do with the resources we have right now to make this better? Whether it's public safety, whether it's school safety, if we know we have the constraints of the Constitution, that's a constraint. They're rules. How can we work within those rules to make it better, to make schools safer? That's how I want to think of things. Not what should we break down? What should we roll back? Take us back in time, take away freedoms to make things work. How do we work with what we've got, with the constraints we have? If we need to make new amendments, let's consider making new amendments. The Constitution was not perfect. It never was meant to be. It was a starting place. That's why we have 27 amendments. One is voting rights. Voting rights. You'd think that in a democracy like we have, democratic republic like it's been set up, voting rights would have been the first thing. They say, hey, everybody can vote. But no, everyone could not vote. So that needed to change. I mean, there was a time, some people may not even remember, when you could actually get drafted to go to war at a certain age, but you couldn't vote. Like, what the hell? You can die for your country, but you can't vote for the people who are sending you. So yeah, things need to change. They always will. And I think it's just interesting how little context it seems that many of us have about history, about our country alone. I would recommend, it's something that I've done recently. I just got a subscription to the History Channel's Vault. I love it. I love history, but I mean, it's great because it's not all the stupid shows that have nothing to do with history that the History Channel likes to show. You can actually get to the actual history programming. And there's a series that came out in 2005, and I remember when it came out, and I watched it briefly. I don't think I watched the whole thing, but didn't have a lot on demand in 2005. It was basically you watched it when you watched it, or you recorded it on your DVR and watched it. So I didn't get to watch the whole thing, and then I found it the other day. It's called The Presidents, and it goes through every president in the United States throughout time. I think it goes up to George W. Bush, um, because I think that, I mean, 2005, obviously, but and it just little bits on each president. I mean, there were 45 at the time, so you can't go into too much detail, but it was fascinating to learn little chunks about each president and their quirks, their personalities, their philosophies on things, how politics worked back then. I mean, there was one president that was before Lincoln in the early to mid 1800s, and I can't remember who he was. He was a general, and of course, he was popular because of a war and being a general. Like, I think we've had 7 generals. I think was the number that they said on the show. Seven former generals who have been president: George Washington, Eisenhower, Andrew Jackson, um, I think Grant, and maybe a couple others. But what was interesting is there was this general, and both parties at the time, which I think was Whig and Democrat, both parties wanted him to run for office for their party. Could you imagine like that happening today? Like somebody who both parties would come after and say, "Will you represent us for the president of the United States?" Because people have to be put in a box. That wouldn't happen. And we talk about the peaceful transfer of power. Yes, that's happened every year except for in 2021. But there were presidents who didn't like the fact they lost. There were presidents who who were kind of like pouty about it. John Adams was one of those presidents. He did not like losing to Thomas Jefferson. Um, and he didn't come to the inauguration. He just kind of almost pulled a Trump about it, but just didn't try to overthrow our government in the meantime. And so there's always been a peaceful transfer of power, but there hasn't been an amicable transfer of power at all times. And so I think it's important to understand history, um, and it's also just fascinating. There, President Tyler, who became president after um, Harrison passed away after 1 month of being in office. They were both. William Henry Harrison was part of the Whig Party, and he had this campaign, this platform, and all these changes he was going to make when he got into office. And after he died in office, and Tyler took over, and you might have heard of the Tippecanoe and Tyler 2 slogan. That was their campaign slogan during the election. Then Tyler took over, and he refused to implement any of the changes that Harrison wanted to make. So much so that the Whig political party expunged him from the party. So for practically 4 years, we had a president who had no party. So it's just interesting to go back, and I would recommend, if you even have an inkling of interest in history, in American history, check that out on the History Channel. It's the History Vault from 2005 called The Presidents. And it's fascinating to learn about each one. And there's so many that we know very little about. But it's also really stoked an interest in me to learn more about some, in particular, Andrew Jackson. I want to know more about that guy, what his deal was. He seems like a pretty complex guy. I'm surprised there hasn't been a movie made about him yet. But now I want to learn more about him. What was he about? Why was he popular? Why was he maybe unpopular? In the context of the time, I think we have to consider that as well. the norms in the context of the time period. But anyway, I mean, all of this is to say we're always trying to put people in a box. And we've had a president who hasn't had a party. He didn't fit a box. I don't think Teddy Roosevelt fit in a box, but he had to pick something because that's just the way the political system works. And in a two-party system, you pretty much have to pick something, right? And I'm very glad this is a nonpartisan race. I don't have to pick anything because I'm nothing. I mean, when it comes to a political party, I'm something as a person, but but as I don't consider myself anything politically at this point in time. Just I'm someone who wants to hear both sides, who wants to give each side a voice, be heard. Just because you're heard doesn't mean that I'll do something, but I want you to be heard. I want to know your thoughts. Maybe you can shed some light on something that I didn't know. Maybe you can change my mind. And I'm not too stubborn to say I'm never going to change my mind about anything. That's what's nice about not being affiliated with a party. You don't feel like you have to like go all in on things you don't really agree with. And that's how I feel about both parties. There's things that I agree with both parties. There's things I don't agree with either party. But I think we need both parties to have a functioning democracy. Just not the radical versions of each party. They're trying to destroy our democracy and what we have here. And I'm not about that at all. And so yeah, I know we're at time. Appreciate everyone who's shown up. Like I said at the top of the hour, I've got signs available, some shirts available. I'm going to have some other events coming up the end of August, mid to end of September. So stay tuned for those. Want to just be able to meet people and have other people meet each other. That's why I love events. I'm going to go door to door. So hopefully we can chat when I come door to door. I'm not looking forward to that because it's just uncomfortable for me as an introvert, but want to talk to people, want to get out and talk to people. And so you might see me at the farmer's market. I'll be there. I'm going to try to come to as many as I can for the rest of the year. I'll wear a shirt that says my campaign, probably have a hat on, probably this one, or Bengals or Reds. So I'll be easy to identify. Come up to me, talk to me. I want to talk to you. I want to know what your concerns are. If you have concerns about my campaign, I want to hear what they are and talk through them. I want you to know that you will be heard, and that I will listen. And I'll share my side and how I feel about it, and we can talk about it civilly, like we're supposed to in a community like Liberty Lake. So appreciate everyone who's shown up. This is recorded. It will be on Facebook for anyone who wants to watch it. But appreciate all the support. And really, don't be afraid to stop me. Talk to me. I want to hear from you. I want to talk with you. I want to meet you. And so keep tabs of the events coming up. I'm going to try to do them, like I said, and get people together as a community to meet each other. So it's not just about me and my campaign. It's about meeting other people. It's about the community becoming closer, tighter, to where we can have good conversations without pointing fingers and yelling at each other and putting each other in a box. We don't need any more of that crap. So that's what I've got. Appreciate you. Appreciate the support. Looking forward to meeting more of you in the future. And reach out if you have questions, want to talk. Always here to talk. Thanks.